Hi again. Here we are for today's science. Today we're going to talk about sand. Do you remember the book that you heard last week? Most of you heard, or maybe it was a week before. I don't remember. About the big boulder of granite. This was a long time ago in prehistoric times, even before the dinosaurs. A big boulder of granite that over time got washed away and worn down until the end it was a grain of sand. Well, so we're going to talk about sand, and we're going to find out if sand is just actually rocks that have been worn down till they're tiny. I'm going to start out reading you a book about sand, and then I'm going to show you some sand. Okay, this book, Sand. I love this book. Oh, the frog just croaked. Did you hear that? Yeah, there he is, living in our pond. Okay, it says... Okay, I'm going to try to show you and read at the same time. Beaches are made of sand. Desert dunes are made of sand. Sand can be home to crabs and clams or seagulls and stingrays. People like to walk on sand, lie on sand, and build big sand castles. That frog is noisy. Froggy. What is sand? Where does sand come from? And how does sand get to the ocean's edge? On a beach or piled high into a tall sand dune. Let the sand sleuth show you the way. Now, a sleuth is like a detective. So we're going to have a sand sleuth here. You'll see who it is. We use the word sand to describe the size of a grain. Sand is made up of grains smaller than gravel but bigger than mud in size. This is gravel. This is sand. And this is mud. Sand grains often come from rocks that have been broken down into smaller and smaller pieces over a very long period of time. Sand can also be made of small pieces of crystal, shells, lava, or even coral. So it's not just rocks. There's other things in sand. Sand can be many colors: white, red, green, tan, or black. Some sand even looks like the black and white of a Dalmatian spotted coat. This is the green, this is the red, and this is the white. This is tan, black. Have you ever seen sand that's black? Black and white sand even. The color of sand comes from the color of its grains. Sand made from coral and shells forms the whitest of white beaches. Waves crashing onto a coral reef bring bits and chunks of coral and shells to the beach, and over time create sparkling white beaches along tropical shores. You may have been to a beach like that, maybe in Hawaii. There's the sleuth looking close up. Sometimes sand is made of crystals. Crystals are made of minerals, and minerals come from rocks. Remember, we talked yesterday about minerals like quartz and amethyst. Crystals of different minerals form sands of different colors. So green sand is commonly made up of small crystals of the mineral called olivine. Crystals of the mineral garnet can make sand look red. The sand, if you look at close-ups, like little pieces of garnet. One of the most common minerals found on land is quartz. Quartz crystals can be many colors: pink, gray, brown, white, or clear, and usually make sand look tan or off-white. Of course, we talked about quartz yesterday, your rose quartz. That's just one kind of quartz. Many sands are made up of a mixture of grains types, including rock fragments, minerals, crystals, and shells or coral pieces. This spotted sand is made up of white coral pieces and black rock fragments. Hi, Froggy. This colorful sand is a mix of red rock fragments and green crystals. Quartz crystals and rock fragments make this sand look gray. When a volcano erupts, hot molten rock called lava can flow down to the sea. Where hot lava and cool ocean meet, towers of steam rise high into the sky. Cool water turns the fiery red lava into hard black rock. Very quick cooling can cause the rock to shatter into small, shiny black pieces. Instant black sand. Now you remember our obsidian. That's how it's formed, from volcanoes going into water and cooling quickly. We're going to put our sand book away now. I hope that you could see that book. And I wanted to show you that I've collected sand from all different places. I have 10 different kinds of sand here. I wanted so much to show you in person and have you hold the sand, but we'll do the best we can. Okay, so let's start out with this sand here. I'm going to put a little in my hand. I don't think you're going to be able to see it very easily. Here, I'll pour it. Okay, did you see how white it is and how fine? It's the finest sand that you could see. Tiny, tiny little fragments. Do you remember from the book? It's probably from a beach with coral and shells. Now, the next sand, I don't know if I'll show you all these sands because you can't see them. I'm so sorry, but let me show you another sand to show how different it is. This one is actually quite similar, but I'm noticing in this one, it has fine sand, but it has also little tiny rocks that you can see. It's not as fine. There's little pieces and color in that. The last one was white. This one is a little different, but still very fine. Let's see what my next one is. Like I told you, I have 10 different kinds of sand. This one, I'm going to skip this one. It's not that different. Because you're looking on the camera, you might not be able to tell. This one is still very, very white, but it's not as fine. It looks, if I had a magnifying glass here, it looks like I could really see the pieces of seashell in it. There's some that's gray and some that's white. Let me pour it again if you can see from where you're looking that it's still quite fine. Tiny, tiny fragments, but we're getting a lot of other little fragments in there, not as pure as the first one. Now we're starting to get to some different colors. Can you tell from here that this is very, very sort of beige color, not white anymore? I don't know what it has in it, but quite different. And of course, I don't remember where these came from. You know, Ellen brought me some sand from Hawaii. Not sure which one that is, where it is here. Okay, so now the next sand I have here is kind of a gray sand. It looks to me like it has little shells, but I'm gonna skip it because you won't be able to tell the difference. And let me move to this one. I love the next one. I just love it. It's one of my favorites. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but it has purple in it. It's so beautiful. Can you at all see the pink and purple? I think it must have amethyst in it. I remember collecting it a long time ago on a beach, and the whole beach was that color. It was somewhere in Southern California. Now, we're gonna move on to we're starting to get sand that's less fine, that's a little bigger fragments. This one is still rather fine. It's more of a gray color. This to me looks like the sand from our sandbox. I don't know, could you see the color? I hope so. It looks, you know, the sand from our sandbox is not pure white. Do you remember thinking that's kind of gray? Now we are starting to get into a sand that's much more coarse, meaning not as fine, more rough. It's like little tiny pieces of gravel. Let me pour it slowly here and see if you can see. Were you able to tell? Let me put the phone up closer to my hand. I'm sorry there. Can you see that it's bigger grains? And you could actually imagine, oh, look, there's a rock that's green. There's one that's gray. There's one that's kind of orangey. It's fun to kind of think, what kind of rocks are those? Now, I want to show you another. I'm going to kind of trick you here, this next sand. Don't be tricked, though. I think you're going to know that this... Is there really sand that's orange? Really like this? In nature? No. You know what? You could buy sand in the store in all different colors. And if you were at school now, you know what we would probably do is use some of this to make some sand pictures. Just have to do it when you come back. Don't worry. I've got a lot of colored sand. Let me show you this one. This one's green. See that? Green. Not in nature, but beautiful, really pretty, and fun to make art pictures with. So I'm going to put that back. Now I wanted to talk about one more thing before we finish. I have some sandpaper here, and just like sand can be very, very fine or very coarse until it gets to gravel. We'll talk about gravel next week. But do you have any sandpaper at your house? Because if you do, I want to tell you that there's sandpaper that has, I think it's real sand. This one, sorry about that. This one is very coarse. I feel like rough. And then I have one that's not quite as coarse. It's a little bit rough, but not as rough as the first one. And then this one is getting finer and finer. And this one that's black is almost smooth. Well, when you're working with wood, people that work with wood need different kinds of sandpapers to do different jobs. I just wanted to suggest some things that you could explore on your own now with the sand. First of all, if you have your mom or your dad or whoever, your grandma, your grandpa, somebody who's at your house, I'm not sure who's with you right now, if you have any sandpaper around the house, you could kind of explore it a little bit and see if you have different kinds, or even if you have some sandpaper you want to do a little sanding, you could sand a piece of wood. That's one thing you could do. Another thing I thought you might likely do if you have access to some sand in your backyard, if you have a sandbox or a place there's sand, I'd really love it for you to gather some sand. I wish you had a magnifying glass. You might have one. I could have put them in your packets if I'd thought ahead, but I didn't. I'd like you to look really close and see what you can see in the tiny grains of sand. See what kind of rock you think might be there. Maybe you're lucky to have two kinds of sand to compare. I don't know. I don't know if you're going to a playground that has a sandbox. We just have to see. But go ahead and explore sand yourself. Do what you want. That's a fun way to explore sand. I think that's all we're going to talk about today. Thanks for joining me. We have more science tomorrow. Bye-bye.